Hey everyone, Aaron Eagle here, the hero of the people, drinking at Moe's. Enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're finishing filling out your order, use the code Drinking at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome to Drinking at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, because YouTube's algorithm is a pain in the ass. We are most places you can find your audio podcast too. Leave a review there. Definitely helps the show out. Today, I'm excited to have with me out of MPX down in Texas, Aaron Eagle. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'd like to say thank you for having me, but really I think I should probably say you're welcome for having me because you were sitting with the hero of the people.
That I get the logic behind that. I can get it. I can get it. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to have a handful of people from MPX on the show. I've had the promoter on because I've ran into him up at Revolver's Iowa stops multiple times.
That's cool. I mean, so it sounds like this is your biggest get yet, huh?
Right up there. On the MPX roster, yeah. I mean, I've had Billy Starks, the guys that invented the Spanish Fly, the SATs. I've had Kerry Silken. I've had former Ring of Honor six-man tag champ Dutch. Former WWE tag champ Bull Buchanan. I've had former NXT tag champ Danny Burch, also known now as Martin Stone. I had a little mini episode with Bronson Reed.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So a couple of no names. That's good. Well, I'm glad to be here. Put some notoriety to your show. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad to have you on. Now, MPX. So, well, before we go into that, I do have my thing I like to start off with everybody with, is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you started, finally deciding to make that leap into the business.
Okay. What got me started as a fan? So it was probably about 12, 13 years old. My little brother watched wrestling, and I thought it was stupid. I thought it was fake. I teased him about it all the time. And then it was either 98 or 99. I was watching an episode of probably Monday Night Raw, and I saw a clip of Stone Cold getting hit with a car. And I was like,
yeah.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I thought this was fake. And people are getting hit with cars. I've got to check this out. And so started checking it out and just fell in love with it from there.
Oh, yeah. And then when you finally decided that, you were going to make that leap into the business, was there a certain point that came up, or?
Yeah, so I tried every sport growing up, and I was terrible at all of them. Either I had no hand-eye coordination, I had no athleticism, I was very small, and I also was afraid of getting hurt. If I got hurt, I wanted to quit. So football didn't last long, soccer with people kicking didn't last long, baseballs flying at me didn't last long, so I didn't want to do it. But like I said, I fell in love with wrestling, and we moved to Arlington freshman year of high school. And I found a little local promotion called PCW, which was kind of, the it promotion in DFW back then. Found it, discovered they were doing wrestling training, went to my father and said, I got to do this. I mean, this is incredible. Looks like fun. It's something I love. And he said, there's no way you're going to do it. You hate getting hurt. You're just going to quit. And that kind of put a fire in me to prove him wrong. And so I certainly did want to quit many times in the beginning, but I just kept going to prove him wrong, and one thing led to another, and now here I am.
Hey, I had kind of a similar trajectory when it came to enlisting in the Navy. Like in my hometown, I was excited. I'm like, man, this is going to be something good. I'm going to make something of myself. I feel stuck right now, but this is going to help me out. And I had more than my fair share of people that I was talking to about it laugh at me because they thought I wasn't going to be able, like I was going to be coming back home just before my enlistment ended. But then, like, that was your dad. That was my mentality whenever anything got tough in the Navy. I'm like, you know what? I'm not proving them right. I'm going to stick this out, and I'm proving everybody wrong.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Anytime I go to my hometown anymore, it's kind of funny. Those same people that were laughing at me are all like, "Oh, we're so proud of you." And I'm like, "Yeah, right."
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Thank you for your service. Appreciate you doing that. But it is definitely a driving force. I never expected I'd be as good as I think I've gotten out of it. My plans in wrestling are a little different now than they were when I started back in 2003, 2004. But yeah, so it's kind of cool to be able to do this thing that I didn't even think I'd stick with, and I really only stuck with it to prove my dad wrong. Fell in love with it even more as I did it, and got to where I've been able to get to now.
Odd how that works out sometimes. Just something starts out as merely wanting to prove people wrong, and then you end up just loving it.
Yep.
Which, I mean, people ask me with the Navy if I enjoyed it. I'm like, well, like any job, there was stuff I liked and stuff I didn't. But the stuff that I liked, like getting to see parts of the world that I definitely wouldn't have got to see without it, kind of outweighed the negative part. So all in all, a plus.
For sure.
But now, MPX, Metroplex Wrestling, they had a big show where you had a tag match against a former guest of mine, Devian Black. I had him on a while back.
Yep.
How was that show for you? Because I try to keep up, see clips and matches any way I can if they're not on one of the streaming services. So for those that might not be as familiar with that show and Metroplex, how was that show for you?
It was good. I think the show you're referring to just happened last night. It was
I was wanting to say, when I saw the date, I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that was last night.
Yeah, no, it was good. I had it was myself and my new sidekick Caleb Riley. It was our second tag match together, facing off against how do you say his names? I think it's Carvins or Cavins or Calvin, something like that. Calvin versus Devion Black. Yeah, it was a good match. I mean, those guys didn't stand a chance. I mean, me and the sidekick are undefeated. After the match was over, we're still undefeated. We got an opportunity to debut a kind of a new double team finishing move, which went really well. It didn't get to happen to Devian Black. He took my backcracker power bomb, and he was done for pretty early before Carvin's was. But the new move was cool. My sidekick lays on his back, puts his knees up. I basically take the guy and rock bottom him right on top of his knees, and so it looked pretty brutal. Yeah, but it worked out for
him. I was going to say that just sounds brutal, but hell, that type of wrestling is right up my alley. I gravitate towards those intense individuals that you just like people have said before. Oh, air quotes, fake, right? But moves, people that can pull off moves like that I can imagine for some people would be like, I know that a lot of this is predetermined, but that looked like it hurt like hell.
Yeah, it's funny because coming back, I took a good 13 years off of wrestling. I started in 2003, wrestled for about 7 years, took off for about 13, and then came back. And so I'm back after about 2.5 years. When I left, I was not one of the bigger guys. I was barely 200 pounds, more of a cruiserweight. Now that I'm back, about 240. The wrestling landscape has changed. The guys are not as big as they used to be, and so I'm one of the bigger guys, and so I do a lot more of the throwing and putting guys on the other side of the ring and slams and things like that. To the point that I look at it and I go, it is you said fake, but I've not taken some of the things that I've given to guys, and I wonder how they can still walk afterwards.
Oh yeah, no, that's my whole thing when anybody uses that term for professional wrestling. I'm like, I like the term predetermined more because yeah, there's aspects of it that are predetermined, but then the damage that you guys take to get to that point, yeah, there's some that seem a little more obvious than others, but hell, I've taken some bumps in that ring, and even a simple fall in that ring hurts. Like I was walking funny for about a week after I was taking some bumps, and it gave me I already had a healthy respect for anybody getting into the ring. It was doubled after that experience. It's just like, man, these guys do it just 10 times more than the little bit that I did. So, yeah, nothing but respect for anybody putting their bodies on the line like that. That is nuts. Like I hear UFC fighters even say that the pro wrestling training is just nuts.
Yeah, for sure. No, it is. It's a different kind of conditioning. And then, like you said, hitting the ring, it's not a comfortable feeling. It's not a trampoline like some people think. The guys nowadays bump a lot more than I remember them doing back when I first started. And I personally kind of have a rule I try to stick to. It's a 3 bump minimum. If I can try to only bump 3 times in a match, great. Because I've noticed every year that I get older, it gets harder to move and to walk after taking too many bumps. So but the guys now, these young guys get in there and they bump all over the place. I got a lot of respect for them. I just mentioned we defeated Carvins and is it Cavins? No, that's not right. Carvins and Black. Those guys are really impressive. I mean, they didn't stand a chance against myself. I'm the hero. I've got a sidekick with me. I mean, there's no winning that. But those guys are really impressive. They move all over the place. They're very fast and they bump like machines. So these guys that are coming in now are a different breed of cat.
Oh, most definitely. And definitely a faster pace than it was back in even some in the Attitude Era, and that where there's it was still the very heavyweight centric aspects to wrestling, and now you're seeing even in the heavyweight matches some of the cruiserweight aspects going into it with guys like hell, even guys the size of Keith Lee and stuff being able to pull off some of the stuff they do is just insane.
Yep.
Now, going into the show that brought us to this episode, March 16th, they have a show entitled Destiny, and you have a title match. What's the buildup been like for you? And what are you looking forward to other than the obvious of bringing home some gold?
So we'll start with the buildup. I mean, I've been known as the hero of the people for a good while now, almost the last couple of years. And I first encountered my opponent, who's Tommy Becker, last year in a ladder match. He challenged me for, at the time, I was the Addicts champion, which is kind of the mid-card championship. He challenged me for that championship, and the deal was if he lost, he would leave Texas wrestling forever. If he won, he could be the champion. And it was a ladder match, and it was a really intense ladder match. I hadn't wrestled a ladder match in 15 years. I don't know if he'd ever wrestled one. I believe he had not. But we went out there. It was a really good show. I ended up throwing him in a fall away slam position over the top rope to the outside through a ladder, which got one of the loudest reactions I think I've heard since coming back to wrestling. He ended up setting up a ladder, putting my ankle through it and kicking it and legitimately spraining my ankle. There's a picture floating around online of a huge knot in my ankle. And he ended up winning. So we had kind of a history. Time went on. The fans actually started to accept me, which I don't know why it took them so long. I'm a hero. But they finally started accepting me. Tommy Becker started accepting me as well. We got put into some tag matches together, and I guess he thought since we were, we were being partnered together, like we're all of a sudden pals. I don't know where he would get that from. It's kind of like go back to high school. You get put into a class project with a kid. He thinks you're best friends. Like why? Why are we best friends? I didn't ask for this. So needless to say, we had a tag match. He is the MPX champion. After the match, I was very frustrated because moments before he had kicked me. I think it was an accident, but either way, he kicked me with a super kick. And so after the match was over, I laid him out. I clotheslined him, picked him up, gave him that power bomb back cracker, called cancellation, and he's been irritated ever since, which is fine with me. Whatever. I think it adds more to the story. So from there, a few shows go by. We go on to what's called the Texas Rumble. 30 wrestlers across all of Texas come together into this match, very similar to what you'd expect at the Royal Rumble. The winner gets a title shot for the MPX title at Destiny, which is the biggest show MPX has. I won that, no problem, easy. I think I had the most eliminations, which as everybody would figure that would be the case. I won that. Streamers everywhere. I mean, it was great. It was glorious. It was awesome. And then, of course, I'm now in line to face him for that championship. This show is very exciting. It's very exciting because we're moving out of the building we traditionally wrestle in, and we're going to Grand Prairie to the Epic, which is where they've run a lot of shows with Wrestling Revolver. And so we're talking a crowd that is around 500 to 1,000 fans, a really big audience. And the last time I was there for Wrestling Revolver, I wrestled Keith Lee, and the energy in that audience is just something different. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to go there, represent the MPX, have it be an MPX show, 1,000 people in attendance for the championship, to be able to beat Tommy Becker. It's going to be a moment. I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to take the championship with me, and to be able to see thousands, 1,000 audience members sitting there chanting "Hero" at me, chanting "You deserve it" at me. I mean, that's going to be great, And then it just closes the book on the story I've had with Tommy Becker.
Hey, that would be the perfect cap off to it. Getting to bring the title home, and I agree with everything with Revolver shows, having been to a handful up here. It's like a damn party in the crowd the whole damn time. Everybody's loving it. Everybody's into the whole show. And, I've not had one unpleasant interaction with anybody from the locker room whenever I've been able to talk with them that, Revolver is just fun. If I had to say one word, fun. And MPX, like I said, I've been able to have a few people on and, got brought together by the promoter and wanting to hype up the show for the 16th, which it sounded pretty big. And, not only your match, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw Trey Miguel's going to be there. And that's pretty special. A little extra something on top of the icing on top of your story, for the lack of a better way to put it. Bringing the title, having somebody that's been on the stages of that Trey Miguel has had, a little something special.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it was just announced last night. Tatum Manning won a fatal 4-way, and with that victory, he got to pick his destiny, and he chose Trey Miguel to go one-on-one at Destiny with him. So that'll be a good match. Tatum Manning is a crowd favorite. He's very well known, been there for a lot of years. He's actually the guy that I took my first MPX championship from about 6 months back. So yeah, I think everyone's going to look forward to that match. It should be good.
That I know I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. I might have to, watch it a little later on, maybe the next day, because I'm actually going to be the Revolver show that I'm going to is actually that same night. But I'll be paying attention on social media, checking up on everybody, seeing how that show goes, because it's going to be a doozy of a show, to say the least.
For sure.
And hell, my friend and I that are going to Revolver, we had seen some of the card, and we are like, holy shit, there's no way we're not going to this. Like Steve Macklin and Ricky Shane Page, Alex Colon, and Killer Kelly versus the Second Gear Crew and Masha Slamovich.
Mm.
That is going to be intense.
Yeah.
And I love joking with the Second Gear Crew guys that their matches might as well be sponsored by Home Depot with all the shit that gets thrown around in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not so much my style. I mean, every once in a while I get put in something like that, but it's not my speed, especially as I'm a lot older.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine, being the powerhouse, and you probably could do well, but especially as you get older. I know me hurt my back in the Navy, and let's just say there's some days where I feel every bit of that damn near $800 a month I get from the government because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can only imagine, the damage you guys take in the ring. Now, yeah. I mentioned, well, you know what? Before we go into my categories, what are some of the other matches besides, yours, Trey Miguel's? Are there any other matches in particular on March 16th that you are looking forward to being able to see?
I haven't paid a lot of attention to what else is being booked or promoted yet. I hate to say it, but I really feel like my match is the only one that matters. It's for the championship. This match will change the landscape of MPX. Me being able to go in there, retain the championship, establish myself as the true hero, is going to just shake things up to a point that whatever else happens with everybody else just doesn't matter. So. I wish I could tell you I've been paying enough attention, but I'm not. I'm just not.
No, hey, understandable. I know, wanting to concentrate on your match for one thing, and then it being for the title. Yeah, it's the most important match of the night. Yep. the match on any promotion, the match that should be the most important is the one for that main title.
Yep.
And that's the case.
It's like going to a big movie release and someone's saying, hey, what do you think they're going to show as the trailers beforehand? Like, I don't even know. I'm there for the big movie. And that's this.
Oh, yeah. No, that totally understandable. Like I said, the main event, the title, that's the most important thing. So if you're in the mix for that, yeah, why concentrate on anything else?
Yeah.
Because, it's been noted before, when people underestimate their opponent, that's when that person gets them. And, I know we definitely don't want that happening in this case.
Right.
Now, going into my categories here. First one's a bit of a name game where I name off some people and, give me your first thoughts on them. And, I try to, trying to think of a good way to I try to theme it towards the guests as much as possible, whether it be some people they shared the ring with, or just in general, people that made their names in the area where each guest is from. And with the whole Texas and MPX thing, each of these people has either been through MPX, or at the very least, they're billed as being from Texas.
All right, let's hope I don't embarrass myself. Let's see what you got.
First one, world's strongest man, Mark Henry.
Strong guy. I've actually met him a couple times. I had a few opportunities to go into a tryout in WWE in my younger years, and so I haven't seen or met him in over a decade. But he was always really nice. At one point, when I went to WWE, the extras typically had their own little space to change. In this case, we actually had a locker room. It wasn't a closet. And for whatever reason, he changed in there with us and was really nice and was really kind. Came up, shook our hands, asked if we needed anything, asked if we needed help kind of navigating the terrain backstage. I've heard some stories about him. not positive stories, but I can tell you my own personal experiences. Seemed like a really genuine, nice guy.
That's always good in those instances because you know I can imagine being somewhat of an intimidating atmosphere, with everything that's going on backstage and all that. And, to have somebody of his stature come and be as welcoming as he was, got to be a
Yep.
great feeling and something that, like you said, a good impression that you carry with you from that point.
For sure. I have a few backstage stories about WWE that are kind of interesting, but one that kind of relates to this. I wish I had encountered him before this happened, but during the show, at one point, everybody's kind of seated around different monitors. There's chairs everywhere, different parts of the backstage area, watching the show. And so I'd come up to this area and tons of open seats, and I just grab one. I sit down, and I'm just watching, waiting to see if there's an opportunity for me to help, or if I'm just hanging out for the rest of the night. And Shad Gaspar came up and he said, "You guys, you should not sit in that chair." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're an extra. You shouldn't sit." He goes, "I know there's like 30 chairs here, but it's a quick way to earn a bad reputation around here." It's very cliquish. It was, at least at that time. So he goes, you should not sit in that chair." And of course, he was trying to help me out as well, and I appreciated it. But wish I would have run into Mark Henry a little earlier that day so that he could have given me the lowdown on other do's and don'ts before I sat in the chair, even though there was 40 available. Wasn't supposed to sit in that one.
Yeah, gotcha. And I hear stories from time to time of kind of the, I guess, unwritten backstage rules and stuff. So it is nice that somebody at least informed you of that before like a big wig came up and like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Yep. No, it's I don't know if it's like that anymore. I haven't gone back since coming back to wrestling. But yeah, back then there was a lot of unwritten rules, and it was pretty easy to step in it if you're not careful.
And I can only imagine, especially the unwritten stuff, sometimes it might be sort of easy to break one of those without even realizing it because it's like, well, I wasn't informed that was a rule. If
Yeah.
I was, hell, I wouldn't have done it.
Yep. Yep. Crazy.
All right. Next one. I'm loving the run she is on with the Ring of Honor women's title, Athena.
Athena. I mean, I've known her for a number of years. I knew her when she first came into the business. It's interesting to see how she has gotten her confidence over the years. Because when I first met her, she was very quiet, very reserved, kept to herself. Uh, to me, appeared to come off as very shy. And then, of course, we didn't have a ton of interactions. We had a few angles. We had, I think, one angle together. We may have been involved in a couple matches. They did like a little romance angle real early on, and then of course we went our separate ways and did our own things. And then of course I left wrestling, and when I came back, uh, to see her with the confidence that she has, to see her with kind of the stroke, I guess you could say, that she has, is pretty interesting to see. I'm very happy for her success. She definitely put in the work over the years. It's always good to see people actually get to live their dream, and so. Good person. She's done a lot for the business, continuing to do a lot for the business. Let's be real. MPX still exists because of her. I came back to this business for really just one match, and one turned into two, and two turned into three. If MPX wasn't around, I probably would have stopped wrestling by now, because I'm just here to have fun, to be a part of nice, fun, engaging stories. There's not a lot of promotions that I found in Texas that have fun, engaging stories consistently, but MPX does. So for the fact that her and her husband Matt Palmer basically saved the promotion and have grown it to what it is, if it wasn't here, I probably wouldn't still be wrestling. So I guess that's a long way of saying I kind of, I think, owe the fun that I'm still having to her to some sort of degree. So good person. I'm happy for everything she's done.
Oh yeah, and I've been able to meet her once when my show here was invited to be a part of the St. Louis stop for Warrior Wrestling when she, I believe, was still the Warrior Wrestling Women's Champion. And Yeah, nothing but great things to say about her. I'm I'm loving seeing the contrast from where she was back, NXT in those days to where she is now, where, to be quite honest, she's basically the main champion that's consistently there on the
Mm-hmm.
Ring of Honor program. And like the storylines and stuff they got her going on right now is just gold. Like the having the minions, and now this storyline she's got going with Nyla Rose, like just gold.
I think you're being able to see her actually stretch her creative wings, so to speak. WWE is a different animal. You don't necessarily get as much creative freedom, and it's more you're kind of handed your marching orders, and you got to follow through. And so I think that's why you're probably seeing a much different version of her, as you're seeing a version that gets to have a little bit of input in how she wants to be perceived by the audience.
Oh yeah, I can totally agree, and that's kind of along the similar lines of what I've heard from people both on and off this podcast. Is yeah, WWE is the machine they are, but then people seem to be having more fun, if they go to AEW or someplace, because there is that creative freedom that you know you're not getting elsewhere, and just being able to stretch your creative ideas and actually get to use them
Mm-hmm.
versus the get your marching orders and take them. Definitely a welcoming thing, to put it to a point. Now, next person on this list, you mentioned having faced off with him. I've actually got to see him at a Revolver show, and I don't know if you can see the top row up here behind me. Keith Lee. I got a signed figure by him that night.
Keith Lee, man, that's a name that goes way back. Similar to Athena, I met him when he was first breaking in as well. And he has always been the strongest person I've ever met. I mean, the guy's got incredible strength. He came in and got a lot of attention really early on because of his size, because of his strength. And he also has personality, which is pretty hard to find with most big guys. We did some stuff early on, nothing too big. And then again, I took my little break, and I didn't know much about him after that. I knew he went on to WWE. I knew he had some success in NXT, some success at the main roster, and then I knew that he ended up leaving after doing I don't remember what the character was. It was like the Bear Cub.
Yeah, the Bearcat or something like that.
That's
Yeah.
what it was. Something really silly. And I remember thinking, like, oh, this poor guy. Like, how are you gonna do anything with that? So I knew he left WWE pretty soon after that, and then went to AEW. Of course, made a big splash as soon as he got there. And I've always, because he's somebody that I knew getting started, I've always kind of kept up and tried to follow his career path. And I actually reached out to him one time online. I don't know if it was a real account or not, and just wanted to tell him good job. I'm proud to see that you made it. You're one of the good guys, because he always was one of the good guys. And so then, come Wrestle Revolver, that first show here in Grand Prairie, he I'm told he's put on the card, and I see that I'm going to wrestle him, which is really cool. Because again, I hadn't seen the guy in a decade and a half, and I followed him. So I remember I reached out to Palmer and said, "Hey, that's pretty cool. Thanks. I'm looking forward to the opportunity." And from what I understood, Keith Lee saw the lineup of talent that was going to be at the show, recognized my name, and said, "Hey, I hadn't seen or heard from him in a while. I'd like to be in a match with him." So he picked his opponent, and the opponent he picked was me. So that was really cool.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but the last time that I had seen Keith Lee, I looked much different. I mean, I was 20, early 20s, 50 pounds lighter, no beard. I used to have hair. I mean, tattoos. I didn't have as many of those. So I looked way different. And so when I first saw him, me not thinking that, I probably looked different to him, walk up to him very excited to say hi. And I probably came off a little too strong, and I don't think he realized who I was. So I went to go give the guy a hug, and it was one of those awkward, like,
Oh,
he didn't want me to hug him because he didn't know who I was things. and I'm not connecting with, he probably doesn't recognize me. And so
Yeah.
it was another weird moment. But then a few minutes later goes by. I think he makes his rounds and realizes who I am. And he comes up and he's like, I didn't even realize it was you. It's so good to see you, whatever. And so, we connected or whatever. But it was a cool match. Again, the guy's super strong. He used to throw me around back in the day. But again, I was, 180, 190 pounds. I'm now 240, 250. I didn't think he would be able to throw me the same way he used to, but he certainly can.
Yeah.
But what was also cool is he's very giving in the ring. I mean, he was very open to ideas that I was interested in doing. He let me give him a follow-away slam. Wasn't sure I would even be able to do it because he's so big, but he trusted me and was able to deliver that. Got a huge pop. It was nice. The guy was really good. He really, really was really good. True professional. Carries himself like a professional. Is very confident in his abilities. So it was cool being able to have worked with the guy when he first started to working with the refined, perfected version of him now. It was really cool.
I can imagine, knowing him for that long. And yeah, he's always come across as, very professional, even the time I got to meet him, which very short interaction, but professional and very, very well spoken.
Yeah.
It's
Very
definitely
well.
the two things that I can definitely describe him as, because, some of the other podcast interviews that I've heard him on, going into even some of his promos, you can tell that he's very professional, very well spoken, and then very intense, especially when, through the course of a match, we got that built up like aggression in there. And one thing with him that comes to mind is that clip of him in Adam Cole in NXT, where he basically just pounces him into the crowd, and Adam Cole just was flying. And
yeah, I took that as well. I'm not into the crowd, but I took that as well. You just lose all control of your body. I mean, it just goes where he sends it. It's crazy. And another thing that's interesting about him too, though, is his intensity. You're right. The chop he gave me was the hardest chop that I've ever felt in my entire life. But it hurt my ear before it hurt my chest because it popped my eardrums. It was so loud. And then I felt it in the chest.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. That reminds me of the match that I actually got to see of his, where it was, him and Swerve were still the AEW tag champs, and it was against Matthew Palmer and I believe Rich Swann. And they did a chop spot with Lee and Palmer, where like he did that over the head wham, yes. And Palmer just like laid down like he was dead, and then they played on the over the speakers that whatever song that is during those sad animal commercials. And then they had R.A.P. Matthew Palmer up on the screen. And I just remember, if I wasn't seated, I would have been on the floor laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny because that first chop he gave me. So I don't know if you've seen too many of my matches, but one thing that I do is I do a pose for a long, long, long time. And I was doing that in the middle of the ring at the very beginning. And that's when he caught me with a chop in the middle of me posing. And it popped my eardrum, and I immediately forgot what we needed to do next. All I could think of is I can't hear, my chest is caved in, So I'm surprised Palmer didn't legitimately die from that, because he's about half the size of me. He had to take that chop from Keith Lee. That's rough.
Yeah. In hell, I've seen some monster chops in person in my day, including, I mentioned having a mini episode with Bronson Reed. That night he was facing up against Jeff Cobb, and I kid you not, I was close enough that like when they were chopping each other, they chopped each other so hard you could literally see the individual beads of sweat just flying off of them.
Yep.
All right. Last but not least on this name game thing here, Guy is pretty much my all-time favorite, and I joke about it, but pretty serious. If I ever actually got to meet him, I don't think I'd be able to get a word out with as much as I want to say to him. But I'm talking about the rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's one guy that I've never actually met, but obviously he was instrumental in my journey to becoming a pro wrestler because he's the first guy that I saw get hit by a car, and I thought, wow, this is something special. I've always been entertained by the guy. I mean, how can you not be entertained by him? He's just got it all. He's got personality. He's got charisma. He knows how to engage the fans better than anyone. I think not anyone, but better than most. Right? There's very few who can really capture the audience and get them to do exactly what you want them to do. That guy knows how to do it. My favorite was always The Rock, though.
No,
Yeah, so The Rock and Stone Cold used to have their blood feuds, and so I couldn't get behind the Rattlesnake when he was going up against The Rock. So there were many times that I was on the opposite side of the fence with the Rattlesnake. But yeah, he's entertaining to say the least.
Oh, good Lord, yeah. Like, I remember when he came back for that thing with Kevin Owens, there's that part of me that was a little worried because of, the history with neck issues and stuff. But man, they did good.
Yeah.
They did really good that night.
I watched it. It's one of those things. You see these old timers come back, and you think, God, they're going to embarrass themselves. Like leave it where it was. It left on a good note. His left on a really good note, and I was concerned as well that he was going to damage his reputation by doing that. But like you said, they did good. They delivered, and it was fun to watch.
Oh yeah, like I joked that I got my little Stone Cold section in my collections back here. Even one of his American lager beers, like I saved the can. I'm like, I gotta save one of these cans. But yeah, with the way I built him up in my head, I seriously don't know if I'd be able to get a word out if I ever got to meet him. It'd just be like, holy shit, I'm actually in the same room with him.
Well, it's funny, watching him as a kid. So again, I started watching when I was about, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. Whenever he got hit with that car, I started tuning in. But I grew up very, very Beaver Cleaver, at least until I was, late teenager. And so no cussing, no drinking, no middle fingers, no none of that. So I struggled with the fact that, am I supposed to like this guy? Because he does all these things my parents told me I'm not supposed to do, right? And he's doing them all. I think he's cool, And so it was a big struggle for me because I liked what I saw, but I didn't think I was supposed to like it.
I can understand the struggle behind that. And my other thing with him that like I joke about it, but I'm definitely serious that if I ever actually got to have him on the podcast, I could never do another episode and I would be fine. Because in my head, I'd be like, I don't know if I could ever top that.
Yeah, game over after that.
Yeah, pretty much game over. I could hang it up, just leave up the channel for, letting people remember the other episodes. But yep, I'm good.
Yep.
After that.
Yep.
All right. Now I got some random questions. Some might be wrestling related. Some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far.
Okay.
So I give you the question. You give me the first answer that pops in your head.
Okay.
First one, craziest in-match moment for you?
Yeah, the first thing that pops in my head, oh man, why would you have to say that? Craziest one. I think almost every wrestler has one of these. Took a big move from somebody. It might have been Lance Hoyt because he's huge. Might have been like a giant choke slam or something. I don't know. I know it was a big wrestler. And I feel like it was him, but I could be wrong. Took something, and that day I was having a bit of stomach problems. And so took the move and felt things kind of move around and make an attempt to exit somewhat successfully. And I think it was towards the end of the match, but obviously I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, is this anybody else? Can they tell? Is there an odor? Is there something visually they can see? I'm just, very, very nervous about that. Immediately go to the back. And as soon as I go to the back, I beeline through what was kind of a gorilla position, cut through the gym equipment because the backside was a gym, and then get to the bathroom and start checking myself. And most guys, when they do that, That's because they're injured. Probably because they got a big gash and they're trying to stop the bleeding
Right.
or whatever. It was tradition. It was typical to see guys go to the bathroom right after a match at that pace when they injured themselves. And so I went, but it wasn't because I was injured. And so I've got guys knocking on the door. This is, I don't know, year 2 or 3 in the business. Knocking on the door. Hey, Eagle, you okay? I'm like, yeah, just give me a minute. And, I'm trying to clean things up, whatever. More knocking on the door. You sure you're okay? Do you need help? And it's like, I really don't want to yell what just happened, And
Yeah.
after I come out cleaning myself, you got like the whole crowd of guys just waiting around the restroom to see when I come out, am I okay? They call an ambulance, do I need help, whatever. And I have to I have to share with the entire group of guys. Yeah, I just crapped my pants in the ring. Sorry.
I
So
was
you
gonna
asked me
say,
what's the craziest. I'm sure there's more craziest, but that's the first thing that came to mind.
no, hey, that's what I mentioned. First one answer that pops in your head, and yeah, I can't remember who exactly, but I know I've heard similar stories. I know Lord, that's why I like to keep this question in this category, because I love the stories behind it. Like Lloyd Anawayi told me about a match with New Jack in the original ECW, and they were
Yeah.
told specifically about not destroying something in the venue. Or not going too crazy with destroying stuff. And then they proceed to both go through a wall, and Paul Heyman starts yelling at them after they got to the back.
Yeah.
So like I've definitely heard some involving Keith Lee, where I'm thinking they had his mom involved in the angle. She took a stunner, and then they were chasing the other guys. Keith Lee was chasing them around. The other guys got around this corner, and then they see Keith Lee running, but then like almost immediately behind him was a big portion of the crowd going, because like the rest of the crowd was going to try to beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, no, there's some crazy stories. I'm sure we're gonna get off this interview, and I'm gonna think, man, I should have shared this story instead. But that's the first one that came to mind. So that's what's
Oh
good.
hell, I've had some instances where getting off of the interview, and then I'm like, oh damn, I just remembered this that I could have
Yeah.
asked. Yeah. Anyways, now next question I have here. My wife and I actually have both of these, but do you consider yourself more of a dog or a cat person?
Oh, dog person, 100%. I hate cats.
Yeah, I'm always more of a dog person. I don't hate cats. Like I tolerate them. Although one of ours loves to use my beard as a pillow. I don't know why. But yeah, we currently have a English bulldog.
Yeah.
I love him because he is kind of my speed when I'm not at work or doing something for the podcast. I like to just chill. Just let
Yeah.
me chill, turn on the TV, I'm good. And
Yeah.
he's basically that same, just let him nap on the couch, feed him, let him out to do his business, and he's fine.
Yeah, no. I love dogs. Don't like cats at all. But even with my loving dogs, I wouldn't call myself like a dog parent or a dog dad or anything like that. I've got 5 children, and as much as I love the dog, he doesn't rank anywhere close to the 5 kids. I'll never put him on the same level as those guys. So I'm not one that's gonna say, I'm his daddy and the doggy is my dog son. Like I won't do that. I don't love him that much, but he's a good dog. He's probably the one that we have now. His name is Sketty. Best dog I think I've ever had. Really well trained, does all the tricks, very predictable in what he's going to do. He's a cattle dog. I like him. I like him a lot, but I don't love him like I do my kids. And so I'm a
Yeah,
dog person, but I'm not a dog daddy. I make him
no,
around the house. We reference me as boss man. I'm not his daddy. I'm his boss man.
gotcha. Yeah, my wife and I don't have kids at the moment. I will share something once we get done here. It
Okay.
kind of along that lines, because I'm trying not to share it too much right now. But behind me here is a good portion of some of my hobbies, like my souvenir shot glasses. When growing up, it was always pro wrestling and Ninja Turtles for me. So I got my Ninja Turtle stuff up top, and signed figures, got some signed Funko Pops, some other wrestling related stuff. What would you say hobbies you have, if any? Because I know between wrestling and the kids, that can take up pretty much most, if not all, of your time outside of wrestling.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. I mean, I love weight training. Started working out when I was about 14 years old and have been doing it ever since. So I'm 25 plus years in the gym. So that's kind of what I call it my iron therapy. So I love working out. I've got my own little gym in the garage here. It's all decked out, have every piece of equipment that I think I need. I'm sure I can figure out more to put in there. If I had the room. But yeah, there's that's probably my big hobby, I guess you could say. If I had another hobby, not including wrestling, wrestling's kind of it. I have a very demanding real life job, I guess you could say. I'm responsible for several hundred employees across the country, and it's a big demand. It's a 24-hour gig. I've actually been nervous I'm going to get a call while we're on this thing here.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah. So between that and having a big family, I am pretty busy a lot, and so wrestling really is my hobby. Everything else is either work or family. I've got a great wife who's super supportive. I mean, I joke about having sidekicks. Like she's definitely the real life sidekick. She goes to all the shows with me, helps me with putting together content to put online, helps me with my merchandise. Um, she's a big part of everything, and right. So any extra time that I can spend that's not on everything else, I really like to try to focus with her.
Oh, most definitely understandable. I always tell people, I've had people have to postpone because of, a family emergency came up, and I always tell them, dude, family is more important. We will we will get a time to do the podcast figured out. You go concentrate on your family, and when things have calmed down, we'll get back in touch and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because hell, I know my wife and I we were pregnant with twin girls, and they decided to show up way too early, and they only made it about a week. That's why I got this tattoo on my forearm.
Gotcha.
And you know, I had enough content to where like I could just release stuff that I had already recorded and wouldn't have to worry about it for a little bit. But there was that time that I didn't know if I was going to continue with it because I was not in that headspace.
Yeah.
But then the people that I was, talking about coming on again, totally supportive. You're like,
Yeah.
dude, you take your time, we'll get it figured out. And that definitely helped me even more to be like, you know what? As long as they're giving me as much notice as they can and they're not just ghosting me,
Yeah.
dude, family's more important. We'll get everything else figured out.
It really is. And I've learned in wrestling, when it goes away, it's gone. Like
Yeah.
it's just 100% completely gone. When I left wrestling after 7 years, no one reached out. No one checked to see, hey, how you doing? We miss you. Let's hang out. None of that. Once it was over, it was over. Right. And so I've taken very serious my time with my family because those are the ones that when I'm laying on my deathbed one day, they're going to be by my side. I'm not going to have my wrestling buddies showing up, hanging out. And so family is very important. And sometimes I kind of feel guilty because when I first started wrestling, I was one of those wrestlers who said, you should only be doing this if you plan to make it big. If your goal is not to be the heavyweight champion of a big promotion, you get out. There's no room for weekend warriors. I mean, that was my mentality. Fast forward, a decade and a half later, I'm in a position now where I'm just here to have fun. Like, does that mean something big could come out of it? I don't know. Maybe. Would I have a conversation? I don't know. Maybe. But really, when I do this, I'm just trying to have fun. I'm just trying to enjoy the moment for that weekend that it's here. And I feel guilty because I know there's guys that spend every single day going to the ring, working on their craft, every single day working on their promo skills. And I don't spend nearly as much time as some of these guys do. And I don't do that because the more I do that, the more I have to take away from my family, and I don't
Yeah.
have much time already. So I want to spend it with them. So I'm just to kind of, I guess, show you a real side of me. I'm very humbled and appreciative that MPX is going to let me headline their show at the biggest event they've ever had. When really, I'm just a part-time guy here trying to have fun. The rest of the card is full of guys who their dreams and aspirations are being the next Stone Cold, like you talked about, the next big star, and their life is completely centered around that. Mine is not. Mine is completely centered around my family. But when I go in the ring, I'll give you the best show you've ever seen. And so I'm humbled and I'm grateful that they would let me do that, and that the boys in the back are they don't appear to be upset or frustrated or angry with me for taking a spot or anything. But family's going to have to stay the most important. In the moment that this fun hobby that I do on the weekends gets in the way of that, it's going to go away. So they have to.
Nope. Oh yeah, nope. Definitely understanding. Now, with the name of a show like I have, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question in here. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, because they tried to always tell people, because I know there's those that can't drink, that just because it says drinking at Moe's does not mean it has to be alcoholic, even though I do enjoy a good adult beverage from time to time.
Yeah. So favorite drink's gonna be coffee, black, dark coffee. I mean, that's my thing. I don't drink alcohol. It's not because of some sort of weird past addiction, or it's not some sort of religious stance. Just never really enjoyed it. And I've had it before. I've had too much before, and never enjoyed the taste leading up to having too much, and then never enjoyed the feeling of having too much. So it's just not something that I really like to do. It's kind of interesting, and I told the story to my wife before. Anytime I go to a function, like a work function, or someone invites us over, if there's drinking involved, you almost always get, hey, you want a beer? You want a whatever? You should try this. It's really good. My answer is always, no, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. And then it goes into, oh, you don't drink? I go, no, I don't drink. Like, oh, okay. Is it like start asking, is it a religious thing? Is it no, just don't drink. You don't drink? That's weird. Why don't you drink? I just don't like the flavor of it. Oh, you just haven't had good stuff. You got to try this. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've tried stuff. I'm just not. No. You try this and you'll change your mind. And then of course I finally, because I know that it's just going to be on and on and on. I go, okay, I'll try it. And I'll try it. And I go, still not my thing. Oh, you don't like that? Okay. You're probably a guy who likes this instead. And it's like basically the feeling out of like, what's he going to like that's going to make him enjoy an alcoholic beverage? And I've just never liked it. Um, I do care about my appearance. Like I said, I've been lifting for a long time. All the guys that I've ever known that struggle with keeping that belly fat away are the guys who like to drink. And so if I don't like it and I know it's going to make it more challenging for me to stay in shape, I'm just not going to do it.
I totally respect that, because, yeah, I've probably went a little far sometimes. Like one in particular, I got told a story of when on deployment, we were in Singapore, and me and my friends, we got this hotel out in town, and we got to we upgraded the hotel package where there's this guests only bar that, like, the guests that had that package were getting in there, and some of these people would be sipping on like one little thing, and me and my friends, we were all getting like 2 or 3 at a time and taking them, and then got way too hammered and ended up, we got called back to the ship early because something was going on. Specifics, most of that whole night I don't remember, but I ended up being the one sleeping by the phone. And all of a sudden I hear, oh, we need you back here. I remember hearing, no, we need you back here by midnight. And apparently I told the guy, midnight? It's already midnight. I can't be in 2 places at once. And the guy hung up on me and somebody else called back.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah,
I'm more of a social drinker. Like, other than sometimes when I'm, recording, I might have a beer with me, but really that's as close to drinking by myself as I'll do.
Yeah, I drink so little that if I do drink, it doesn't take a lot for me to start feeling it. The
Mm,
last time I think drank was on our anniversary with my wife, and I drank. I was at a Cheddar's. I don't know if you have a Cheddar's where you're at.
I know of them, yeah.
All right, so we were at Cheddar's. I drank a margarita, and about halfway through, I was feeling it. I was said, "You're gonna have to drive, babe. I can't do this." So it was
Oh,
funny.
oh yeah, no. And some of those margaritas, especially if they put the good stuff in there,
Yeah,
you'll be feeling it after at the very least one. You'll definitely be like, ooh. But then, yeah, there's that whole one tequila, two tequila, three tequila floor thing.
yeah.
You drink more than two, and yeah, you're probably gonna
Well,
be off.
I think I only got through about a quarter in. I'm a pretty boring guy. I don't drink. I don't really cuss either. And again, that's one of those funny things. I've never really been one to cuss very often. If I do, if I add a cuss word in, it's because I'm really trying to push home a point. You know what I mean? Um, and so people recognize I don't cuss, and they automatically assume, well, it must be some sort of religious thing. Don't want to offend them. And so it's funny when I'm around people who cuss regularly, especially in the business, because they'll start saying something and then they'll go, "Oh, sorry, Eagle." Like, guys, like, come on, I've heard these words. Like, just because I don't use them doesn't mean I'm seven and I can't handle you saying a bad word. Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, no, I definitely get you there. Now, last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Best advice I have for anyone wanting to get involved in wrestling. Yeah, um, I would say practice your promo skills regularly and post it on social media often, even if you don't feel confident with it. When I first started working in this business, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have social media. We may have had MySpace, I think. I don't remember, but I know we had flip phones. So the ability to just record a promo on the spot was not there. And so when you went to a show, again, we wrestled the big prominent show in DFW back then was PCW, and they had a TV deal at some point, and so they did backstage vignettes. Guys would get to the show and they'd say, "Hey, do I get to do a promo today? Do I get to film a promo?" Like, "Oh, not this time. It's not going to be you. It'll be so and so." And you come back the next week. "Hey, do I get to do a promo?" "No, not this time." Guys would be chomping at the bit to get their moment to be able to have a vignette or a promo. Fast forward, now I'm back in the business. Social media is definitely a part of our culture. Smartphones, everybody has one with a workable camera, and hardly anybody posts anything online. And I thought, I got back in and I thought, well, this is something all the guys used to want to do every single weekend. Why aren't they doing it? Like, no one has to ask. If I'm going to go wrestle for, ABC Wrestling Company, I don't need to call the promoter and be like, "Hey, do you care if I share a vignette about the guy I'm wrestling this weekend at your show?" I don't. He's not my boss. Like, he's booked me on this one show, but I'm an independent contractor. I can just do that if I want to. And so when
No.
I came back, I took my character. I ran it like I would run a business, or like I have run a business, which means I'm going to make sure I get a lot of exposure out there. And the best way to do that is for people to see my personality and my character. And so I would just post stuff on social media. And really, I think that's why I've gained the traction I have coming back, is because at least once a week, I was posting some sort of creative content with me doing a promo, with me, calling out an opponent, talking about an upcoming match, doing a funny skit. Me and my wife like to put together skits, silly stuff, fun stuff, intense stuff, whatever. And I feel like it got people behind me. So if I were to give recommendations to anybody starting, put content out there, because once it's out there, it's always out there. So if you put 100 pieces of content out, if 3 times a week you film something and put it out there, the chances of it getting across the eyes that you needed to get across for them to recognize you and notice you have increased. So do it. And if it's crap, here's the thing. Let's say I put out a really crappy promo, right? And it's embarrassing and it's not good. Even the wrong person seeing that is more exposure than you having nothing, you know? And so that's my advice is go ahead and start working on your character, put the stuff on social media regularly. I've said it to so many guys, nobody's done it at all. I mean, I've talked to so many guys about doing that. None of them do it. They just don't. I don't know what they're scared of. Like, you get up on stage in front of a live audience, basically in your underwear. What are you scared of?
Oh
Just
yeah.
get out there and do it.
Oh yeah. And the whole thing about, maybe one that you're not so much thrilled about yourself. and somebody gets their eyes on it, that might even get them curious, like, okay, are they all like that? And then they go and they see some of the better stuff, and then boom.
Well, so I'll share this, and I don't know if Keith Lee we even know about it. I don't know if anyone ever talked to him about it. He had a tryout really early on in his career. I want to say it was the first year or two. And back then, he did this thing where he'd come out on stage and he'd yell, "Come on," and he'd do like this big flex. And it was kind of hokey, kind of cheesy, whatever. And so he sent up a tryout tape to OVW at the time. And the story that I'm told is OVW got it. They put it in, they saw it, and they saw Keith Lee doing the "come on" thing. And from what I understand, all the guys were making fun of it, being like, "This is so dumb." So look at this guy with this "come on," whatever. Well, I'll tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me if later on down the line people remember that and go, "Hey, that's the "come on" guy who's now doing, XYZ." So it's a connection point, and I don't think it's bad if you've got bad content out there. I mean, you should shoot for quality, but all of
Yeah,
those are opportunities for people to piece it together and go, if they see the bad stuff, let's say 6 months later, they see how you've refined your stuff. They go, "Oh,
yeah,
wow, this guy's really improved in 6 months. I wonder what we could do with him with another 6 months."
exactly. And hell, some of some of my earlier interviews, I'm my own worst critic even to today. But hell, I think it was the first episode I ever recorded is actually now like the in the top two or three of my most viewed ones on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, there's that part of me that, yeah, my own worst critic, but then there's like, wow, some people must have really liked that one. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, like with a wrestling match, when guys first get their start and they get in the ring, the first few matches, maybe even the first couple of years of matches, you're gonna watch it and go, "It's kind of trash. It's not very good. It could be a lot better. That looked terrible. That whatever." At some point, they start to really get it, and you start watching their matches and go, "Wow, that guy's phenomenal. That guy's great. He's got it." The same's going to be true with a promo. You're going to put out your first stuff, and it's not going to be good. You're going to beat yourself up about it. But the more and the more and the more that you do it, you get to the point where you're really comfortable, and you'll have those really good promos. I bet one of my favorite backstage promos is The Rock, right?
Mm.
At least what he used to do. I don't really know about nowadays. He's kind of taken a different direction with his character. But the way he used to just go out there, get on camera, be interviewed, his promos were really good. They were funny. They were engaging. The minute the screen hit him, you were like, "I can't wait to see what this guy's going to say," right?
Oh, yeah.
He didn't
Oh, yeah.
start that way. He didn't start that way.
Oh, good
He's
Lord. The whole, well, shit. Let me see if I can find it. Might topple some stuff. But when he was under this persona,
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. It's
yeah,
terrible. And
yeah.
so that's a perfect example of the more exposure you get, the better you'll get. So these guys, I wish these indie guys would just stop worrying about practicing your leg slaps. Start worrying about practicing your promo skills. It'll get better with time. Okay, stop being scared. Treat it like your first matches. They're going to be trash, but you'll get better with time. The same is true with your promo skills. Just put stuff on social media. Let people dog it. Let people make fun of it, because guess what? You're getting more exposure the more you do that.
Yeah. And the way I try to look at it, especially with some constructive criticism early on that I got, was I can't improve on something if I don't know it needs improved on. So therefore, okay, I take down what the people tell me, I use it, and shit. That's why pretty much every episode I've had since like the first three, I have at least a page of notes sitting right
Good.
here next to me. So then, like, if I get on a tangent, like, I can be like, okay, that's where I was wanting to go. So
Yep.
get back
You
into
learn.
there.
You learn from it. Exactly.
Most definitely. Well, that is about all I have. Want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. But before we go, where can people find you social media wise, so if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there?
Yeah, I'm probably most active on my Facebook page. Should just be able to search up Aaron Eagle and find me there. That's where I really could use my wife. She's better at this stuff. I haven't I have an Instagram, but I know it's connected to my Facebook somehow. But I'm sure you go on there, all the stuff that goes to Facebook gets populated on Instagram. I believe I have a TikTok. So any of those, just search Aaron Eagle. There's not a ton of Aaron Eagles out there, so it's pretty easy to find my stuff. And then of course I've got a YouTube channel as well. I typically try to post everything to YouTube before I try to post it anywhere else. So if you're wanting the freshest, most up-to-date, relevant content, that's the place to go. And what I've learned from YouTube, the big goal for me for a long time was, I want to wrestle in front of thousands of people. Well, according to my YouTube numbers, I've worked in front of 150,000 people already. So I go, wow, I've accomplished a childhood dream. I'm good with. I didn't see them all in one audience, one arena necessarily all the time, but I got to wrestle in front of all these people or perform in front of these people. So I look at my YouTube stats a lot and see where I'm at. And so that's where you're going to find the freshest stuff. But you can find me on Facebook, interact with me there, and we'll have a good time.
Definitely. And, before we go, you brought up the YouTube numbers. As of right now, I'm sitting just shy of 90,000.
Wow.
On the views.
How cool is that, though? You start this little podcast and 90,000 people have checked you out. That's pretty impressive.
And I'm, some channels grow bigger than others. I think as of right now, I am about 10 shy of 300 subscribers. But when I started, I didn't even have 50.
Yeah. I remember when I had 9, and now I think I'm close to 400. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, being the shy introvert I was before the Navy, I never would have thought I'd be having people, that many people wanting to listen to my stuff. Hell, one last funny story before we go. I've been recognized at shows, which that still blows my mind. But the one that really still gets me chuckling to this day, I got recognized at the zoo. And I was just like, wait, what? And they're like, oh, hey. And then the way my wife was like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, oh, they recognized me from the. And then my parents were giving me kind of the same look. And I was like, told them about, oh, they recognized it. And then just the reaction, the look on their faces after they're like initially puzzled, but then, oh, that's cool that our oldest son is getting recognized like that around here.
Yep. One of my kids came home from school and said their friend or watched me on YouTube or something like that. And it just further cemented in my kid's mind that I'm some sort of big celebrity superhero type of guy. It's pretty cool when that happens. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, that is about all I have. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Best of luck out there with that show on the 16th. I know I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes and hopefully catching some of it on YouTube or anywhere else.
Well, thank you for having me, Big Mo. This was a pleasure. It was fun. That show is going to be a big one. If there's ever one to catch, that's the one to catch.
So I'll definitely be keeping my eye out on it. Thank you again.
All right. We'll see you. Take care.